All right, guys, you know what I miss? I miss hearing from you guys. I'm going to send out a tweet right now. You got 5 minutes, but anything that gets asked in the next 5 minutes, I will answer. Here we go. Tweets out. Next move's on you. Joshua Julian asks me, what is my favorite Tito Ortiz story? I don't know how to interpret that. I see that as like somebody opening the door for me to come in and tease the doofus that is Tito. I don't know that Tito being a doofus is my favorite stories. I like Tito back in the day. I like Tito back in the day when he was passionate about a sport, he was sacrificing, he was working very hard, and he did a good job. And one of my favorite Tito stories was him going to take on the janitor, Vladimir Matyshenko. Now, Matyshenko, many people, particularly the hardcores, thought had what it took to beat and cause an upset over Tito. It ended up, Tito whipped his ass for all 25 minutes. And one thing about that fight going in was just how big Vladimir was. He was big, he was a wrestler, he did what Tito did, but he did it better, at least in his amateur days. I mean, this was some of the narrative going into that. Tito absolutely dominated him. Dominated him at wrestling, was way bigger than him, body locked him, picked him up, made him look like a fool. I don't say that against the janitor. That's what happened. It was a very one-sided contest. My favorite part, though, the janitor, when he showed up, had no cornerman because it was a last-minute fight. So he went to the ring by himself, and he found somebody at the last moment to walk there with him to hand him water in between rounds. That, for me, is one of my favorites. Toe Brogan wants to know, what is the capital of Arkansas? No one knows. That's the thing. That's what's funny about it. Like, no one knows for sure. It's believed to be Jackson Hole, or it's believed to be Seattle. It's very strange. They've never told us. There's no way to know. No one knows, and we can't find out. Will Chimaev fight Adesanya? Why is this not coming up? No, I don't think so. Not in a meaningful amount of time. There are so many different ways you could go with Chimaev. I mean, right now, it is hype. Are there skills there? Oh, you bet. Could the hype be real? Oh, sure. Time will tell. But it is hype. And when you talk about the hype and when you talk about the excitement about what is this young man going to do and going to accomplish, it is very hard to read a Chimaev piece, particularly from the hardcore fans, social media, things like this, and have them not bring up champ. The Chimaev is going to be the first ever and is the most well-equipped currently to be the champ at 70, champ at 85, and the champ at 205. I don't disagree with that. I don't know if any of those things are going to come true. I don't know if he'll become champion ever. What I'm sharing with you is, if you want to know who is most equipped, who could do it, not who's likely to do it, who's most likely to do it. I also see it as Chimaev. A lot of guys say they'll fight at this weight class and fight at this fight. He's fought at multiple weight classes, and he's won them all. All those opponents in those different weights between two at middleweight and two at 185 pounds, or at welterweight. They all ended up second, one thing they have in common. They got no offense mounted, one thing they have in common, and they were all done in less than a round, one thing they have in common. And Chimaev trains with light heavyweights. Alexander Gustafsson, one of his biggest named training partners, he trains with him. Chimaev says he's going to do it at all three weights. Let's just say that's true. Well, you don't have to break down whether you think that it is or not. Let's just say that is a possible long-term path that a promoter sees for Chimaev. If that's true, you are going to do it in order. You're going to start at 70 before you move him to 85. You're going to have success at 85 before you move him to 205. He's not going to bounce around. So it's one of the reasons that you don't need to worry about Chimaev versus Adesanya or Chimaev versus anybody at 185. Now that he has made it clear that he's a true title threat, you will lock him in one division at a time, and you'll go in order starting with the smallest. So he will start at 170. We'll see what he achieves. But the likelihood of him ever, because this is years from now, being champion, Adesanya still being champion, them might meeting up, I'm pretty light on the idea. Maury Page is asking me, do I think this will be Jake Paul's most difficult fight yet? Now, of course, he's talking about the fight coming up, Jake Paul versus Will Fury, which I believe is next weekend. Nobody knows when that fight is, and it's very hard to find out. I was even ready to watch a Paul fight on Saturday and had people telling me I was wrong that it's on tomorrow. It's like, well, it can't be on tomorrow. Tomorrow is Sunday. Nobody boxes on a Sunday. They did. They fought on a Sunday. So a lot of people missed it for that very reason. I don't know exactly when Paul fights. It's coming up. He is taking on a younger man. He is taking on somebody with lineage and history who does compete in boxing. The problem with Fury is, does he? I mean, if you're boxing somebody that doesn't box, are you competing in boxing? Or are you following boxing rules, but you're doing something else? And at this point with Will Fury, his opponents have such a bad record. It's something like a combined record of 11 wins and 150 losses. That's the combined opponents of, well, I might be exaggerating that, but I might be exaggerating it smaller. They might have 4 wins and 180 losses. It's something brutal. So while Will has done things in the boxing ring under boxing rules, Will is not a boxer. I'm being asked the weirdest thing anybody's ever said to me in the middle of a fight, and it kind of goes 2 ways because I started it. I am not the guy that talks to you in a fight. I don't say anything to my opponents ever. I was fighting Jon Jones, and Jon took me down. And one thing that I was very good at is getting back to my feet. And even if that isn't going to favor the judges or win you a fight, like even in the practice room, I was very confident that I could get up from anybody, and I could. I was very good at getting back up to my feet. So anyway, fight starts, Jon takes me down. And as he takes me down, and just before I plan my big stand-up, I say to him, that was a good takedown. So I'm now in the process of coming back up to my feet, and I get there. As we're coming back up, Jon says to me, do you always talk to people in the middle of the fight? Mike, you're asking me if I figured out how to dismount from the one wheel. Yes, I did, and it wasn't near as complicated as I thought. I was bringing that one wheel to an even, because that thing's got horsepower. Don't forget, I mean, this thing's like a car, and I have the one that's made for off-road. I didn't even know they made one for off-road. My buddy Ryan bought me for this as a gift. I was glad I had it, but I didn't know a lot about it. So the more I looked into this, he bought me the high-end one. This thing is more than my first car. I mean, this thing's got some real power. It's got some real durability. So I would bring that thing like a skateboard to a nice even stop, and then I'd have to jump with both feet. If my wife was on, I'd come over and double leg her. I'd come pick her up to get off of this thing, because as you tip it down, it's shooting you. This thing is not playing around. Yes, talked to you guys, read some of the comments. Somebody left me a section on the YouTube page and with a link of how, and you know what? All you have to do, you have to know what end is triggered. But on mine, it's got a specific pattern. Your heel comes up. Bring that heel up after it establishes your weight. Bring that heel up. It will bring it to a stop. You can drop back down the other side. Get off safely.